Everyone wants to know the secret to beating COVID. And around the globe, it's going to be pretty much the same answer, which is get your body, your health in order the right way. And if that means having to spend a little more on natural, healthy supplements and food, because food is the most important part. We have all the tools that the earth have given us, to live a very natural and healthy and happy life. And only when we turn our food supply back to its natural state, because one of the problems that arise is thinking that because we produce food faster in a more confined space, that means automatically that it's better. That may have been the case when the monopoly was still favorable to do so, but with people think it's overpopulation that creates food shortages, but people are consuming a lot more than they have had in the past, especially with the fitness industry being ever so more popular. People are consuming more. And meaning that consuming more is that we have to produce massively and with a better quality. So, having said that, allowing people to grow their own food, plant their own supplements, create their own materials that are from the planet, in order for them to, live more abundant lives. Because whatever society you live in, whatever part of the globe you live in, notice that that particular part of the planet will only do good if their people are doing good. And if we deprive the people from their basic needs, and especially when it comes to the health and food industry in general, we have to take more measures to make sure they are produced with better quality and massively in order to feed all people, so that food shortages will no longer be a part of the system. And the only way to ensure that is to have people the freedom to, if they have space and land where they can grow their own food, have their own cattle, butchering does not have to disappear. It can be done ethically. And regardless what vegan or vegetarian philosophy you have, there are some people always who are going to be meat eaters or fish consumers. We can't force it out completely. I know genetically a lot of people too are not built to be vegan or vegetarian or anything else that doesn't properly come to consuming meaty products. Having said that, however, we have the responsibility to create a world where no matter what your dietary choices are, that they can be met as long as it doesn't harm the planet, Mother Earth, in the meantime. And all of these things can be done very quickly and can be done very efficiently and can be done really, give or take, less than a year. We can have the food changes and the food supply in such a way globally where people around the world can thrive. And that is the secret to COVID, is to change our infrastructure and the way we mass produce food around the globe. We've seen food shortages be rampant everywhere, and we can no longer we can no longer rely, my apologies, on the monopoly being played by the food industry for them to be the sole responsible ones to be able to produce our food, because we have seen during COVID that food shortages are rampant. A lot of food had to be thrown away, which is a disgusting habit in general. I never ever would condone throwing food away. especially where I come from, that is considered an insult, considering that people are dying from starvation, which is ridiculous in the times that we're living in today. And the societies that we're living in, if we want to move forward, we can no longer do so by depriving other nations and exploiting, other countries in order to fuel the Western economical, socio-political hemisphere, which has undoubtedly led to the point where we are now. And if we're thinking that we are going to do the same thing, expecting that the results are going to be more positive, then you are sadly mistaken. You are fooled, and I'm afraid to say this, but then you're all baffling idiots. This can no longer continue. And Mother Earth has undoubtedly given the message very clear, all right, in more ways than one, not just COVID, but with the recent spikes in heat and the floods that have been China, Luxembourg, Germany, and other places around the globe, I believe, Luxembourg. So this is a clear sign of Mother Earth that she's no longer going to tolerate our disrespect towards her any longer. And for those of you who are thinking that Jesus is going to save while we sit on our backs and do absolutely nothing, again, you are very, very terribly mistaken. Because it didn't take a long time for us to get to COVID, and it doesn't have to take very long, as we've seen within the first year of Corona being active, how fast nature was resetting itself and turning the entire ecological structure back to normal. So within a year, a lot can be accomplished, and the more we rely on bureaucracy and geopolitical treaties in order to get things done, having a bunch of papers in black and white ink written are not going to solve this issue. In Western society, it is pretty clear, if you listen to the philosopher Alan Watts, that Western society delays everything to an extraordinary amount until such time where you can only enjoy your life when you're at the urge of death, which is about 60 plus years old. And we can no longer afford to be living like that anymore. It is a travesty that what we've led the world to, and we have to solve this. But we can only solve this when we've put all our differences aside. And starting today, especially, the cure to COVID is the foods, the plants, the animals that are provided to us by God and the universe and the Great Mother, who is the mother of us all, Mother Earth. So, having said that, it is abundantly clear that we have to change the way we produce food. Now, how do I suppose we do this? It's very simple. You have farmers go around communities everywhere around the world. You teach people, travel them, teach them how to grow their own foods in their backyard or in their giant piece of land. And this can be government funded easily. And does not have to take a lot of time. And also within a lot of communities, it would help bring people together, especially in rural areas where a good sense of community is needed for a neighborhood and or city to survive. And there's been a lot of disharmony amongst that, and continuing the same direction we've always been to is not going to be successful one tiny bit. So having farmers going around the communities and teaching people how to grow, teaching it how to do effectively, teaching how to take care of the plants, and all of the extra details that the farmers would have a lot more knowledge about than I have, and making sure that the people know um, within the neighborhoods what they're growing, how much of it they're growing, how much could be sustained for the particular neighborhoods or particular sections of a neighborhood or a particular street where they live in, so they know who's producing what, when and how much of it, and whatever cannot be distributed amongst the neighborhood themselves, they can always sell in other cities and or other communities in order to not have to throw away the foods. But it is very essential that in the future that we produce our foods in the way that doesn't harm the natural eco system of the particular fruit and or vegetable that we're trying to produce. This is with vegetables. Now, when it comes to farm animals, that's going to be a little bit trickier, though. To be factory producing these animals to this very day, it's unsustainable, it's unhealthy, it's cruelty, and it definitely, when you look at the lifespan of the animals, it's too short. They're being grossly overfed with very little nutrients, and also providing that the state in which this animal lives does not compute with not only the physical health but also not the mental and or spiritual health of the communities of the world that we're trying to feed. So the only solution left is to either have people who have the space and have the land and have the land really be utilized in such a way that people can produce and raise these animals themselves, whether it be chicken, pigs, or any other consumer friendly animal. So the only solution would be, besides that, to release them into the wild. Hunting, especially in the United States, is a very cultural thing, which is embraced pretty much in almost every community that lives in there. And having these animals released into the wild, there is of course a danger of overpopulation, especially when it comes to pigs, deer, which of course they can contract other diseases if not cleaned and prepared for carefully, which is why we use antibiotics in the past. But just as with humans, because we put so much medicine into ourselves thinking it's going to make us better, if you were to watch the documentary Rotten, you would also see that that has protected us in one way, but really deprived us from a certain protection in another way. You have a lot more food allergies. Food allergies have increased over time. Why? Because our gut does not have sufficient or sometimes no bacteria at all, which is necessary for us to combat these particular allergies. And it's being consistently generated further that a lot more people will contract different food allergies if we do not set the course straight. But releasing farm animals in the wild would have the animals a chance to recover back to their original natural state, why this just makes for healthier animals to consume. And of course, we're going to have to need zoologists and nature lovers of all kind to monitor the progress of the animals, make sure that we're not killing them off too quickly, and giving them enough space to recover their numbers. This is going to be very important because if we're going to feed the world and if we're going to have to feed the people the right way, it's just very, I cannot stress the vigilance of this enough, that these animals that we're releasing into the wild in the future, that they be kept out of harm's way and they can reproduce in a natural way. And the same thing for exotic animals, which are growing ever more extinct as time goes on because of the infrastructure that they're so comfortable in, that we are continuing to destroy. And plants are going to be essential for this also. And burning down forests is not going to be very, not only ecologically, not only for climate change, but also not economically viable for the future to sustain. This because plants are oxygen. Without plants, we cannot live. Without trees, we would die off, and we are getting very close to that actually being a reality. But having said that, again, it can all be reversed very easily and very efficiently, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, it doesn't have to cost a lot of lives, but it will take all of us working together to have this done. Furthermore, when it comes to the debt that the United States is in, it's simple. The billionaires residing in the country have to do their fair share. Everyone has to do their part and paying their fair share of taxes, and not only the taxes that they have avoided, but also the taxes that has not been paid over the years since these companies have gotten their start, or how many times they've avoided paying the right amount, or sometimes avoiding paying them at all. This is unacceptable to be taking from people who have very little, only to supply those who have more. Now, this was a video on how we cure COVID, but I've seen we've gotten further. So without further ado, let's get further. And why are these simple solutions not being implemented? It is very simple. It's just for the same reason that solar panels were not allowed for the longest period of time, because corrupt politicians such as George Bush really did everything they could to prevent solar panels from getting in, because it would not fall in line with the people who were paying for his campaigns. So having said that, we need career politicians out. We need career politicians out of the game, and the way we do that is you cannot make progress when you have the same people in the same office for 30, 40 years. I've seen it happen. I come from an island where corruption, Curacao, where corruption is very high. It is very normal for directors and politicians to have multiple businesses out of taxpayer money, and make multiple investments out of taxpayer money, and throw giant parties and have giant getaway trips out of taxpayer money. And to not be able to fathom the fact that corruption only happens in third world countries, we've seen exactly over the last year and a half how that statement has been totally proven wrong. And for that particular reason, I strongly recommend that career politicians ceases to exist. The term career politicians will have to be gone in order for to move forward. And what do we do once we get these career politicians out? It's simple. You have to make a term not just for the president, but also for every single member of Congress. Having make sure that if you do a correct job, that a politician gets only 8 years max. Every politician in Congress only gets 8 years max, and have a review come up every year until the 4th year. And if they have excellent numbers, if they do their jobs well, and if there are no signs of corruption or ill intent within that particular member of Congress, then you are more likely than able to extend another 4 years. And that's the way we should go about it. Have every politician get no more than 8 years, and preferably only 4. That way you can have a lot more people join the political space with a lot more bright, new, fresh ideas. And these should be people from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of places, preferably from within their own community, to people who know their community, people who have lived, were raised, born in those communities, to be able to have the right ideas and the right infrastructure in order to be able to make the differences that will help these places move forward. And this is just for the United States, but who knows? It might be able to be implemented in other places around the globe with the political spectrum. These ideas are ones that I presented for the United States specifically, but these ideas could also be implemented everywhere else. And if it's useful and if updates can be made, please don't hesitate to come on the comment section. They might be turned off, but I'm going to be turning them on back soon. So if people have any updates, if people have any ideas, please do not hesitate to put them out there. And we can make those updates happen at any point in time to ensure that these plans go into fruition. Now, of course, with the politicians, it's pretty much for the most part said and done. And one particular detail that I forgot to leave out is that we have to ensure, and this is also right getting into my next point, we have to be sure that politicians in not just in the United States but around the rest of the world also are being held accountable and being held in strict regard, just like testing in the UFC, for making sure that corruption is not rampant. But how do we do that? How do we enforce that? How do we implement that? This also is a very simple task to do. Is you build a private sector with people who are outside the system, cannot be bought in, or cannot be sold out, and really geared towards having a proper handling of these politicians. And these people can come in unannounced, and they can ask every member of Congress to show their records, show all their papers, all their legislation, what they've implemented, how they've implemented, with what kind of intent, all these details that are being presented right at this moment with the issues that we are facing. And just like testing in the UFC, this is going to be very important in the next few decades that we are implementing this era in. Why? Because we have seen too many times that power in the wrong hands or in the right hands for too long will ultimately lead to corruption. And I have seen this happen in many places around the globe, and to think that it doesn't happen in the first world countries of the United States and Europe is to be blinded by ideology. Is to be blinded by superiority, which means letting the ego rule. And we will need these organizations in the future to make sure that that ego is being put in check, to put it plain and simple. And the details of these will be made clear right now. Which, of course, is that the people hired for this particular job have to have clean records, preferably have mandatory police and military training with outstanding records to show, and psych eval, which is another perfect psych records, and that is going to be very essential. And I'm going to be making another video about this as well, how we deal with the psychological aspects of everyone doing a high stressful job moving forward. This is something that is being highly overlooked in the past year and a half. How we put these lockdowns and these methods in place, thinking that we're protecting people's health, but actually done a lot more damage, not just physically, but also and or spiritually, but mostly mentally. We have definitely damaged a very important part of the human psyche, which is the need for routine, the need to be actively busy, the need to be constantly at least getting the sense that we're moving forward. Because after a year and a half of being stuck and unmoving, for some more than others, people have had their businesses closed down, and because of the error of the politicians, there should be some compensation from the government made for people who have lost their businesses, and stimulus checks are not going to cut it. And we have to seriously look at how the government spends their money. And with this particular group, which initially focus on corruption, we need another private organization to make sure that how these politicians spend their money globally is the right way to do it. And not saying cutting a budget or defunding or cutting corners, but definitely make sure that the money that is being spent, the taxpayer money that's being spent, goes to the right places where it needs to be. Because I find it highly objectifiable and actually morally offensive that you would have $1.5 trillion to shoot people with vaccines that are not FDA approved, not being checked for any short and or long-term side effects, but had not been able to get $1.5 trillion together to help your Army veterans who have sacrificed so much for the country, only to come back and have received no benefits, receive no mental health care, not even any medical health care for their issues whatsoever. This is a travesty, and that cannot and will not be able to be sustained. And definitely we need another private organization, as well as a private organization checking all of these politicians for corruption. And only then will we be sure that the mistakes that have been made will not be made again. Furthermore, we need we need online open borders. To think that we have these algorithms and with AI in place, thinking that we have done ourselves a service is terribly mistaken. Yeah, you want to protect online bullying, but you keep everyone mentally and spiritually in their own matrix when it comes to the internet sphere. The internet was created to have an open source of sharing with each other, as it always should have been. The internet and social media is being blamed for a lot of social issues that we have, but I've said it many times over. Social media has never created any problems that didn't priorly existed in the first place. And so it's very imperative that AI has already been activated. You see the way the algorithms function is that it is very hard to for people to get content across, get their own authentic content across, and we've been putting people in their own mental prison because of the algorithms, thinking we're doing it to protect people, thinking we're doing that to help people, but it's not helping anyone. It's having people be more secluded in their own bubble, in their own mental sphere, rather than having a sense of freedom. Because our society, the society we create on internet is ultimately the map of how we did it in the 3D world. To have open borders, and look, that doesn't mean you're gonna always find the most wholesome content, and you know that is definitely something for the creators of YouTube, Vimeo, and a lot of other people like Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, to see put out what kind of content is approved and what not. And ultimately it's been decided by people and not by exactly the algorithm. So there's been a very mismatch in what the AI is doing versus what the people behind the computers are doing, saying what is approved and or disapproved. Furthermore, when we're talking about open borders, why do we have a border problem? Because we've created borders. We think building a wall around the United States is going to help anything. I'm not going to be too long on that. There's going to be another video altogether. But thinking that building a wall is going to keep people out, yeah, China built a great wall and the Huns still got through. So if we don't learn from history, then historically history is going to be repeating itself time and time again until we learn. And seeing as though how we've been doing this for the last year and a half, we have definitely not learned. But getting back to what's going around with COVID and how do we cure the people, changing the way we look at health is definitely important. And doctors in the medical field who want to practice medicine should have a mandatory study on nutrition, because we've seen in the medical field there's nothing being thought about immunity, there's nothing being thought about nutrition. And before the fitness industry gained its popularity, its massive popularity due to social media, there wasn't any information, barely any information at all on how to do that. And the information that did exist was very much manipulated and geared towards only a specific part of diet. And we all know, as with the trends go by, that diets can change. So we really have to be looking at how we're going to be looking at diet, how we're going to be looking at nutrition, when, if, and how it's going to be applied towards the needs of the individual. All of these will have to be accurately sorted out and organized in such a way that doctors are going to be a lot better off in the future in advising people on what the proper steps to take for their physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. And in psychology of how we look at food is a very big step. Food is being thrown away everywhere nowadays when one restaurant doesn't sell that particular type of food. Only to figure out that there are people everywhere living around the world who are not able to get the food, who are practically dying of starvation. And here in the Western world, we throw away food so easily. That is a shame, that is a scam, and that can no longer be allowed to happen. And these type of restaurants or these type of establishments that engage in such activities should be filed a hefty penalty if they ever go that particular direction again. And with that being said, it is also very important to make sure that all of the people, regardless of what the government or people in the medical establishment can do for you, is also very important for the every citizen, to know their own body. Practically, as we've seen with the importance of physical health and how that helps a lot of communities just be a lot better. A gym membership should actually be government funded. Gym membership should be given by the government, because ultimately the government gains from this and the people gain from this. Is that a country can only do as well as its people are doing. And if the people are doing poorly, then guess what? The country is doing poorly. So gym memberships in the future will be government funded and is actually a great asset. And if you want to give people an incentive to go, then the social credit score system is not a bad way to go. I mean, we're talking about socialism, but even most insurance companies have already applied this, especially for those people who are overweight and have heart problems. I know in some Caribbean countries and even in some countries in Europe, where if you do not meet standards of overall good health, which we know by now are changing constantly, and have to be updated on that in the future very accurately, because they change on perspective of genetic physical capability. We know about health allergies, some given to us by birth and some are developed later on in life. These are all the things we have to be looking at accurately as we move forward, and I can lay out a detailed plan here right now, and I will. Don't know yet in how much detail I'm going to get over this, but I'm trying to get as detailed as possible. We have to be able to ensure that citizens have the proper knowledge out there to figure out what it is they need, when they need it, when it comes to their overall health. And there have been a lot of health books out there, but we need a centralized place where everyone can find anything that they want. And in my last video I have already said how to make that information more readily available, and not just have hardcover books be the solution to that anymore. We have to embrace the future. We definitely have to embrace the future that we're getting in, even as I was, and in some cases still am, an artist. I love painting, I love using a lot of handwork material, but I recognize that in the future that those are going to be very obsolete, and making sure that everything that we used to do with a pen and paper we get to do on a pad now. It is very much easier for us in the Western world to be able to adapt to the future than some other countries who will join us later in these fundamental changes that we're all making here in the world. And therefore, have a global place where all that information is readily available for people to figure out what their health concerns are. And I've said it many times before, it is very easy to have a government do a lot, but each citizen should be responsible for their health, and a social credit system that makes sure that the people do stay healthy isn't such a bad idea, actually. China has implemented, uh, whether you want to believe the stories or not. I've never been to China. I don't know the ways of it go there, but that social credit score system seems to be implied really harshly. And this doesn't have to be here in Europe or the United States. We have a democracy. We have to uphold the laws of that democracy if that is what we are still standing for. However, having said that, we need to give accuracy that as much as the government can be of aid and can be of service into helping everyone. And being the force of leaders needed to be able to help each other out, it is also very important for each citizens to be their own helping hand at times, especially when it comes to the health issue, making better health choices, and having more natural sources of supplements available that are not only chemical based. And this is nothing against the medicine industry in general, but the more we use holistic solutions to do this, the more energy and the more resources and the more time and the more funding can go into solutions we haven't solved yet. Because a lot of the issues we're very keen on taking chemical substances for this problem can really be easily solved if and only if we apply holistic plant-based methods as a solution for the overall health of every citizen, not just in the United States and or Europe, but around the globe as well. As soon as we make those resources available and help each other, teach each other how to use these methods, and quite frankly, I think I heavily believe that in the future, holistic part of medicine will be a gigantic part of the medical field in general. Because we figured out a lot of stuff in the last year and a half. We can do a lot more stuff, a lot more faster, a lot more smarter, and a lot more efficiency, and with not as much strain, and not whether it be financial or physical or mental or the stressful strains that it has been. Because social media, whether you believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, have given us all the tools we need to be able to learn from one another, to be able to communicate way faster with one another, to be able to implement these solutions wherever before. However, we've before we learned how to properly use something, we only properly learned how to exploit and abuse it. With many other consequences to come as a result of that. A lot of it being, of course, how we look at each other as citizens, how we look at each other as spouses, couples, all matter of perspectives that we have come to learn. And so it is with that we have to band together and do a lot better job than we have done in the past. Because if there's something that COVID has clearly taught us very well, is that we could do a lot better than what we have, and doing that in accordance with the universal harmony of the planet that we're living on. Because the way we've been doing it right now is only furthermore draining not only the planet and not only the animals and not only the plant life, but also our own lives. And I know for a fact that nothing is achieved without sacrifice, but a lot of the sacrifices we have made in the past are no longer necessary. and it's going to take all of us to make sure that the future that we create is one where everyone can live harmoniously their own way without having interference from outside governmental entities, in order to ensure that we as a human species can live on in harmony with the rest of the planet. This video went on a tad way too long than I had planned for it to be, but for those of you who have stuck around this long, thank you very much for watching and for listening. And if you the comment section is turned off right now, but I'm gonna figure out how to open that back up again. You can all comment, you can all subscribe, and leave the comment section open for any and all other ideas and suggestions. If there's any lack of detail, I could go into as much detail about these solutions as I could, but obviously there are going to be a lot more. There are going to be a lot of experts out there who are properly studied in the field, who can take what I've said today here and run proper protocols on this, and that any and all suggestions and or a possible critique can be laid out and properly discussed. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, for if there are any boys and girls watching, thank you all very much for watching, listening. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and we're going to upload a lot more. We're going to be doing a lot of heavy-duty work out here, and because it's needed. But having said that, some of my content will be more explicit than others. So for all the children, keep in mind, I always put on, before I upload a video, what is for children and what isn't. And I am very aware of the presence and the example that I'm setting and what I'm creating right here. So I always want to try and make sure to do this as accurately and fairly and as responsibly as humanly possible. So have a good day, good night, wherever you are in the world, and have a great life. And as always, namaste, people, and thank you again. See you all next time.